Hey folks, once again, Dr. Brian King here. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Sarah and I, we've been touring all over the country, mostly in the southeast though, right?
Yeah.
Like we were in Louisiana for a while, Georgia before that, Tennessee.
Every rural place of Georgia we've never been to at this point.
That's right. We actually went to cities that we've never been to before on this tour, which is a weird thing after you've been touring the United States for 10 years.
I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. Blues, women, and blues. I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. I'm an asshole.
And we had a podcast scheduled that we were going to record in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you want to tell the folks about our guest today?
Yes, we're here with Newland. She is, well, I'll let you introduce yourself more a bit, but she did modeling with me the other day. She does comedy, and she used to be in the ministry.
Yes, so thank you guys so much for having me here. So excited. I do stand-up comedy. That's what I'm known as. And then, of course, I did ministry before that as well.
Actually, I think I should clarify something. The reason why I mentioned Nashville, we were going to do a podcast with you in Nashville like a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
But we weren't able to do so, right? And it just, as a sheer coincidence, you left Nashville and moved to Dallas before we got here.
Yes.
So we were totally able to sync up. Like, this isn't just like, we're random, thing. This is actually like you moved here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what brought you to Dallas, though? Why'd you want to come here?
So I've been here in Dallas before. I actually went to Bible college here in Dallas, Texas.
Really?
Yes. And I got my degree here doing theology and youth ministries.
Bible college? Did you?
No, I mean, I knew there was such a thing. I just didn't know about that particular one here in Dallas. Yeah.
So I know there's the Southern Methodist University, which I think the word Methodist implies like it's religious.
Yeah.
And then there's Texas Christian University. I guess there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of religious stuff. So you went to Bible college.
Yes, I did.
Wow. So you like the Bible so much you went to a school devoted to this one book.
Yes, I know. And it's so funny because like when I was in high school, I went to a high school in Seattle, and like they taught us like all religions, the top 5 religions of the world, and like I could have gone to different religions, but with family members being so religious, like I couldn't really.
So you come from like a really like Christian background?
Yes.
Are you from Texas originally?
No, I'm actually from Seattle, Washington.
Okay, and what brought you to Texas? Because they're like super religious here in Texas.
Yes,
really
it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because like growing up in Seattle, like it's not a religious place. Like most of my friends were like atheist, Wiccan, spiritual, not, like there was like some Christians there, but like not like it is here. But basically my former youth pastor in Washington State went to college here and said that he feels like this would be a good fit for me, especially since like from like a very young age I wanted to do ministry. Like I think I was like 9 years old when I wanted to do that.
Wow,
yeah.
Really? How do you? A 9-year-old who wants to be a minister. You were in a church before.
There was one time where I thought about becoming a nun. I mean, it happens.
Wow.
Girls think about things
And you
like
really
that.
That's at 9 though, because at 9 I don't think I had. I think I wanted to be a movie star when I was 9. I don't know.
I changed my ideas of careers when I was like young, and then for whatever reason, like that stuck.
And you pursued it, and you to the point where you moved to Texas and went to college to study the Bible. Wow.
Yeah, like, and I already like knew the Bible. It was just wanting to be more in depth with it, learning how to do ministry, how to speak in public, like those types of things. Like I wanted to learn, and I at first wanted to be like a missionary, but then I switched my focus on youth ministries, just because like for me growing up as a kid, like I had a brother that had a terminal illness called cystic fibrosis. There was just like a lot of different things going on in my family life where like the church kind of gave me like sanctuary and hope when I was young, but then that started to change.
I see that. So I'm a psychologist, and a lot of people get into psychology because they were helped by a psychologist
Uh-huh.
or somebody, as young, and they wanted to sort of give back. And it's interesting that you would have that. You would have the experience that you were touched by the ministry, or you were touched by the church, and you decided that you wanted to give something back. And,
Yeah, that was
and
my
devote
way.
your life to it. You know, and was it really like, I'm gonna devote my life to it? Is it?
That's what I thought was going to be like the end all be all for me. Like even when I was in college, like I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I thought I was going to be like overseas doing youth ministry work
Wow.
over there. But then after college, I didn't know where to go. And then a man. And he was over in Thailand, and I always felt like that was one of the places I was supposed to go to.
Mhm.
So I thought this was like God's destiny. I thought I heard God's voice.
Yeah.
But it was basically my pants that was calling.
Yeah. The pants are calling all the way to Thailand.
Yes.
That's expensive charges, man.
Oh, yes.
So you don't have to be like celibate, or like, is that the thing? I don't know. It's being a nun, right? You can't have a relationship, right?
Right. Well, depending on the denomination, like the denomination that I was a part of was kind of more like charismatic, evangelical.
Mm-hmm.
Ministers, they can, get married and such.
Okay.
You're not supposed to have sex before you're married, but
But they allow it.
They don't.
God closes his eyes.
Well, if you don't want to be accountable, you just don't say anything to your higher ups. If not, then they're like, well, you need counseling.
Really?
Yes.
So if you had sex before marriage,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to tell your higher ups all about it, like give them all the dirty details. And, and do you have to get graphic? Do you have to?
No, it's just like,
That would
hey,
be very twisted.
I'm just
It
seeing
would be
this as
very
being kind of a
Twisted.
weird
We have
thing.
to share something. I had a dinner one time with a family. It was like a post-church, kind of Sunday meal. And there were two priests present from the church, and they were telling us about this really funny old chart they had about when you could have sex. Okay, are you married? Yes or no? Are you in love? Yes or no? Are you this? Yes or no? It was like a yes or no kind of chart. Okay, but don't enjoy it. It was like,
So it's basically like that's
very
pretty
old.
much every woman's like, okay, you can have sex, but just don't like it. If you're a guy, you can have sex, but just
Yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah.
That's wild. Did it have anything about sexual orientation in that chart?
I don't know. But it was like, are you being fruitful, or is it for the purpose of, children? Or is it was like this whole really
Yeah,
old,
what if
even they found it
What if
hilarious.
it's the apocalypse? You're only two people left, and there's nobody there to legally marry you. Like where's that?
I wonder how that would go.
Yeah, like
Blue
that-
Lagoon and
It's like, look, we got to do this for the species. So you were attracted to the church because of it helping you as you were younger. And what's interesting to me though is that you followed through. Like I said, I wanted to be a movie star when I was 9, and I didn't do anything to get me to that point. It's interesting that you pursued it. You pursued it all the way, and you came to Texas, and you got a degree from this. Is it like a degree?
Yeah, it's a degree.
Okay, it's like a bachelor's or
Yeah, it's a
something like
bachelor's,
that.
yeah.
Okay, and you just read the Bible a lot. I mean,
So they went into depth with like the Old
and
Testament.
forgive me,
first.
I don't mean to sound so stupid, but I
No,
am literally
no,
kind of
like-
ignorant into what would be in a Bible college, So
No, not at all. Like, ask any questions that you want because, not everyone grew up the way that I grew up. There's so many different types of denominations out there. But yeah, they have, classes about the Old Testament, the New Testament. And then they had some of them specifically focus on maybe the Book of Esther or
so
just
like a
different.
deep dive.
Yeah,
into,
deep dive.
Okay, really break it down.
Sometimes they would break down things that were, the Greek part of the Bible or the Hebrew part of the Bible. So it was more in depth of what the Bible was about. And then of course there was counseling classes. They didn't really tell us how do you counsel someone that has mental illnesses. There was a lot of lack
All right.
in that type
So
of
it's just
stuff.
really focused on the specific things that they think are important based on their religion.
Yes.
Did they teach you to refer? or things like that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like this is outside of my scope
Like,
of.
Because I always feel like a lot of people are like, come to me for all the answers, even if I don't have them. I'm just gonna fake it, But that's a good point. Like you should, say like, you're gonna have to leave the church for this question. Do they do anything like that? Or?
It was more of be led by the Spirit, because like since it was like one of those like Pentecostal charismatic churches where they're like speaking in tongues, like that type of stuff, minus the snakes.
Yeah, so I guess I should have clarified too, because we're kind of confusing church and college. But the college was for a specific religion, or was it?
Well, it was like Christianity, but it was like really emphasized in like the charismatic Pentecostal type of stuff. We like in the morning time, it was like a big, huge church service, but after worship was done, then you go to your classes.
Yeah. And
then after your classes, you would have like a seminar, but basically it was like a lot of guest speakers.
Are the Pentecostal people the ones that do the snake charming? Is that a thing?
That's like the extreme Pentecostal branch of that. Like I've never been to any of those before. I mean, when I was a missionary in Thailand, like that was like the weirdest moment.
Yeah.
Like there was like this Canadian.
So like bring out snakes, like holding them.
Well, not like snakes. This was actually. It wasn't like harmful, but it was just. Like the guy must have had like super expensive glitter or something, because like he said like miracle signs and wonders and like appeared in like gold dust.
You ever seen gold dust in any of your church experiences?
Only doing icons, making icons of gold panning, but no, not.
Yeah.
Yours sounds so much more fabulous.
I feel like it's something like that comes like straight from a movie, but I've never seen it in a movie before.
Yeah.
So I will say I have identified before with the more charismatic side of things. When I was in Catholic Church, I often was involved with the Spanish-speaking ministries, and they had a huge, guitar group and singing and everything, and there was a youth group that would get together on Fridays, and we would, be going over some part of the Bible, and there was singing involved, and we'd often go out salsa dancing and stuff like that afterwards. So I can understand, and that draws you in, and you, it's kind of, a way of cultural expression. It's also a way of experiencing spirituality at a different level.
Yes.
So I can see how that would.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it sounds like those are good experiences. Like I would dig, like a social group where I got to dance and party and stuff, and then of course you got to play with snakes and gold dust. I mean, that sounds like fun,
Well, minus the snakes. If I saw a snake, I'd run.
So, Bible college in Dallas. So you lived here before, and then you graduated with your degree in Bible college, and then you literally went into like trying to be like a minister, right?
Yeah, I went like straight to Thailand basically after graduation. I did children's ministry there, and then I helped with my ex-boyfriend / fiance, whatever. With his little meeting that he would have outside of the church that we were a part of. So we kind of did our own thing without like the pastor really being in control of what we said or did. And then his spiritual mentor was an older woman, and she didn't like me at all, to the point where she like made up this, like she saw like a picture of me type of thing, saying that I was holding a dagger and my mom was holding me as a child with like a headdress of some sort or whatever, holding me in front of this fire and like
an Aztec sacrifice or something?
Yeah, kind of.
That's what I'm thinking of when you say a headdress.
Yes, and the craziest thing, like I never told like anyone ever about this, but like my great-grandfather was a Freemason, and she just straight up said like, you're part of the Freemasonry, and like your family has a lot of bloodshed on your family, like just like a lot of crazy things. And then her and her friend shoves me into a room and told me that I needed to repent and be delivered. So I faked my repentance.
Wow.
Because like they wouldn't let me go, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to repent. Why would I be a missionary and do ministry if I had all these issues? I'm like, if God was really telling you something, he would let you know that I was having sex on the kitchen counter with your spiritual son, but God's not telling you that.
I feel like that's the part that would be more interesting for God to tell her, actually.
Yeah, right, exactly. Be like, hey.
So you ultimately then you left the church, right? But I think it's so fascinating that you literally had this path that you were, like at the age of 9. I'm gonna be a minister, and you freaking did it. You know, like you went all the whole.
So was that last event you described the reason why you got out, or were there multiple things?
There was multiple things.
Yeah.
I actually became agnostic last year, so I stopped going to church for the longest time. And when I would try to go back, I felt like I was wasting my time. So I was like, why even bother? And then when I was talking to a friend of mine, he's like, maybe you're agnostic. Have you ever thought that you were? I was like, no, like I guess I've just been denying it, and then finally I came to the realization that I am, and when I finally said it, I felt like this heaviness on my heart was like gone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Only a few people in my family know. I tested the waters just a little bit to kind of see what the reactions on people were.
So they're gonna watch this. So
so far, anytime I talked about
I'm kidding, they're
religion,
probably not.
right? Because I've talked about different things about religion, like maybe like 2 other episodes of like different podcasts about it, whatever, and none of them have reached out to me saying like, hey, we're concerned about your soul.
Interesting, now you've become a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
And was that related to leaving the church? Did it happen around the same time?
No, I actually didn't. I actually was still going to church at the time. I was in a job that I hated. Like, it drained my soul. And it was...
Totally me.
Medical billing.
Yeah. Okay, that wasn't me.
And my supervisor at the time was this 40-year-old woman who was obsessed with Mean Girls, the movie. And she would wear pink on Wednesdays.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. And she had her little
thing
spot.
In the movie? I don't remember.
I don't remember. It's been a while.
It was.
I remember like Lindsay Lohan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that was before she went kind of nuts.
She was Regina.
So you had a boss you didn't like, a job you didn't like,
yes.
and then comedy was an outlet.
So basically, I got laid off from that job amongst other people. Like anyone that's been there under a year got laid off. So I didn't know what to do because I never did unemployment before. And so some of my friends were background actors for the TV show Nashville. And they're like, hey.
Oh, right, because this took place in Nashville.
Yeah.
I told everybody about the whole Nashville connection in the beginning, so we all remember that. Okay.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, this should be some easy money, like, $10 an hour. And then they set me next to this guy, and for whatever reason, like, our connection, just talking to each other, I felt comfortable telling him, for the very first time ever coming from my lips, that I wanted to try to do stand-up comedy. And he's like, that's cool, I want to do that too. So he's like, hey, I know someone that does stand-up comedy, let me reach out to her and see where we can like go do an open mic together. I was like, that'd be so awesome. Like, I was like so excited. I was thinking like this was like a God connection.
Yeah.
So I was like,
so you were still believing in God.
I still believe in, like, I was the struggle, like, I was like, okay, maybe this is a God thing.
It's a sign.
It's a sign, however. So I show up, and he wasn't there yet. So I was like, okay, maybe he's just running late. 5 minutes went by. 10 minutes went by. And then 5 minutes after it started, I was like, hey, where are you?
The guy that you met.
The guy,
Okay.
yeah. So the guy that I met, I was like, okay. And then finally it's like, hey, just to let you know, police officers blocked my road for whatever. He didn't tell me why or whatever.
Yeah.
I think he just was scared and just copped out at the last minute.
Sure.
Who knows? He never told me. But I was like, oh, I put my name on the piece of paper already. I don't want to back out. And a friend of mine did show up to see me perform. I'm like, okay, well, at least one friend decided to come perform over. So I'm like, okay, like, record it and I'll go on stage. So I went on stage and I told a story that I thought was funny. Crickets. But also, I didn't know what to say or do. Like, I didn't say, like, hey, this was like my first time ever on stage.
Yeah, nobody does well their first time. So,
right.
Like, I mean, if you do well your first time, then you're going to suck for like the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Everybody needs that humbling first time crappy experience, you know. So, but you powered through it. You enjoyed it. Got the bug.
It was fun. And the funny part was I got off stage because I was like, okay, I'll just get off the stage and slip my wrist and just put you guys out of your own misery.
You really want to entertain people, do it on stage. Right. There you go. That's like that is something everybody will talk about the next day.
Right. So the host, she came up and says, I know what drugs I'm on, but I don't know what the fuck she's on. And I was like, man, I really bombed it. And then I sat there and I was like, you know what? I did bomb, but next time I make at least one person.
Who was the host? Do you remember?
Her name was Courtney Warner.
I don't know her. But and you caught the bug. You've been a comic ever since, right? Like ever since you've been doing comedy all over.
I did take like a brief break because
we all took a break recently.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not worth.
Well,
we all want a break on everything, right?
So in your act, do you address the fact that you're a former minister? Do you talk about the church?
Now.
Right? Okay.
So I've been working on material that talks about me being a missionary. Mm-hmm. Like I'll joke around and be like, yeah, I used to be a missionary, doing it more than missionary style. In Bangkok, banging cock.
There you go. See, lots of puns. Lots of sex entendres. I like that.
Yes.
I like that you went from being a minister to like just being filthy.
I think I was always like the interness of my life has always been like pervy, filthy, whatever. I just never really expressed it.
And so you let loose on comedy stages.
Yes.
You've been doing it now for 5 years or so?
Well, I would say consistently for a year and a half.
Okay. I have always told people, and it's not like it's, I'm like that. I have this really, unusual, perspective, but I've always just pointed out that it's a very similar skill set, like to deliver a sermon, deliver a comedy set. As a professor, and the first time I ever got on a comedy stage, I was like, wow, that's just like being a professor. It's just without people taking notes. You know what I mean? It's like, and so it's got to be like the public speaking background, the engaging the audience, you handle snakes really well. A snake is just a microphone, really, when it comes down to it.
Just make sure you dodge the teeth because.
Right. So imagine the skill set transfers. So all that Bible college education obviously transfers. And you hopefully you developed other skills when you were learning about the Bible and stuff. So that kind of transfers too. But it's an interesting career shift, and it's not just a career shift, but it's like an ideological shift, because your career was based on your belief system, and your belief system has changed.
Yeah, I had a teacher, actually, a high school teacher. She was a nun for 13 years, and she ultimately got out because she just decided she couldn't live without sex anymore. And it was
sex is important.
Yeah, but it was interesting. Her first boyfriend ended up being a narco traffic thing, and so he wanted her to, like,
she went from being a
nun to having a boyfriend who was a narc.
It was like a drug trafficker.
Yeah, he wanted her to. She still had her habit, and he wanted her to smuggle drugs with her habit and everything. So that was pretty shocking. Like,
Did
after
she?
No. But I mean, she had these amazing stories, and she taught us like high school literature and humanities. And the cool thing about her history-wise, besides the really off-the-wall stories that she would come up with, is that when it came to literature, of course, in literature, the Bible and other religious elements are constantly being referenced, and she could tell us like the inside thing, like, this part, well, it's because they're referring to this, and it feels like there's a little something missing. It's because they actually took this part of the Bible out, and that part of the Bible. She would give us like the insider scoop of the Bible, of the literature, so I feel like I don't know from your experience, but all of that education at some point
Yeah.
ends up playing out somewhere. I mean, we never forget our knowledge.
Yeah.
I always feel like education has value regardless of what you do. You can always, it informs who you are and helps build your character and stuff, you know. So you may not be working as a minister anymore, but you know, you're going to be the most knowledgeable, you know, on the Bible anyway, waitress at Stuckey's, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Is there, you know, people? Oh, you can work at what's a good like religious restaurant? The Cracker Barrel. You know, you work at Cracker Barrel. They sell a bunch of religious artifacts. You can tell everybody exactly what they are. No, no. I think it's wonderful that you have sort of found yourself in this evolution. I really do. I think it's great that you're doing comedy. Sarah mentioned you were doing also doing some modeling.
Yeah, a little bit.
Is that something we could talk about? You want to talk about a little bit about some?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit of modeling.
So what kind of modeling work have you done so far?
So it's just been like helping photographers build their portfolios. I've done, you know, indoor, outdoor, studio, and then like I started getting into like boudoir photo shoots and such, and I've been enjoying doing like boudoir just because like it's like when you grew up super religious and they told you like, oh, you need to cover yourself and do this and do that. I've, you know, even when I was like a minister overseas, like sometimes it was hard to find, you know, appropriate dress, what would be considered appropriate dress in like America's churches. But I'd be wearing like a short dress. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, if I bend over, everyone's gonna see my ass cheeks, you know? But, like, I would get the greatest compliments on those dresses. Like, you know, like, the women are like, oh my gosh, you look so beautiful. And I was like, well, wait.
Yeah.
What? I don't need to cover myself to protect my brothers in Christ, you know?
Yeah.
So I learned modesty is a concept. So there's no right or wrong way. As long as you want to dress the way that you want to dress, that shouldn't be an issue at all.
I've always felt that was kind of hypocritical because, like, if you believe in God, you believe that God created, you know, all of us and everything, that He created you to look the way you do. And, you know, like, why would you want to cover it up, you know?
But I have a friend, I always admire, she had a very attractive daughter, and she dressed nicely and normally and nicely, and people would say to her all the time, like, oh, how can you let your daughter dress that way? And she's like, I sewed that dress for her. She's beautiful. Why shouldn't she show off how beautiful she is? There's nothing inappropriate about her looking that way, dressing that way, you know.
Well, you know, many religions in the world, they suppress female sexuality by covering them up. You know,
it is,
and really what it comes down to is it's control and sexuality. I don't know why religions are. I don't want to generalize because some don't, but I don't know why so many religions are anti-sex.
Yeah,
you know, I don't get it. You know, and there's some that are even anti-sex within marriage.
Maybe
you know, like
this is the reason why you never got much into
that's exactly. I figured it out. That's the reason I never really bought into the whole religion thing. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're doing comedy. I'm glad are you happier? No?
So much happier, for sure.
It seems like it. It really does. Don't worry about bombing at open mics. You know, it happens to the best of us. And the modeling sounds interesting. I want to tell me more about this boudoir stuff. Maybe after the podcast. Now, I'm a photographer too. We've done a photo shoot. We've already. Sarah talked about.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just very empowering.
It is empowering.
Yeah, we did a cool, brief little photo shoot together.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
Yeah, it was neat. And if you want to see pictures of Ash, check out her Instagram. If you want to see her doing comedy, check out her YouTube. And where can people find you?
So you can find me on like TikTok. You can find me on Instagram. That's where I usually do most of my stuff. I have some stuff on YouTube, but it's more of like kind of keep track of like all the stuff that I have recorded. So I'm not going through my phone. I get more traction on Instagram, which is I found Newland, which is my last name. That was like a little fun thing that
fun on.
Yeah. Are you the only Well, I guess are you the only like Ash Newland out there? Or
yes.
So that helps because I feel like that's a relatively unique name.
Yeah.
Any more questions, Sarah?
No.
Yeah.
Just thank yous.
Yes, thank you for
really
having
appreciate
me.
it. I think it's a wonderful story. Again, like the whole idea of just like transitioning through life and finding yourself and you know we're still going, right? Like all we can do is like you never know. 5 years from now, maybe you decide to do something else, and maybe you believe something differently. And that's the nice thing about life, is that we just kind of evolve through it as we develop. And that's I'm glad you're in a happy place right now.
Yes.
And I'm glad you moved to Dallas, even though we don't live here anymore. Anyways, thank you so much. Ash Newland, everybody. Ash Newland, check her out. Follow her. She's a very talented individual, and of course, very interesting as well. And as always, thank you, Sarah,
thank
aka Red Tango, my partner in crime, my partner in life, my partner in everything. I love you. You're the best, and you're a great co-host too.
Well, thank
I appreciate
you.
it.
Yes,
The
I
podcasts that you are on are way better than the podcasts I do by myself. I'm just I'm just saying. And folks, this has been another episode of On the Road with Dr. Brian. Thanks for watching or listening, however you are consuming it. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Ooh, joining us. That's what I should do.
I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. Blues, women, and booze. I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. I'm an asshole.